What's up, my beautiful fashionistas? You are most welcome to Yvonne Winifred Yoji. Today, in this episode, we are making a female shirt. So, this is the fabric that we are working with today. I've already folded my front and back pieces together. The top one is the back, and the one below is the front. It has a button allowance of 2 inches. So from the top here, from the shoulder line, I have about 27 inches as the length, and the width is a quarter of the hip measurement plus the allowances. So I'm taking all my measurements from the top and also from the center back or the center front, not the button allowance. So guys, from the top I'm going down by half of the armhole measurement I'm working with, which is 8.5 inches, and then I mark at 16.5 inches for the waistline, and the hemming will be where we'll be marking our hip line, kind of the hip line there. So at the shoulder line here, I'm going to take half of the shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches plus half inch as the joining allowance, and I'll mark that same measurement at the chest line here where the 8.5 inches stopped. Then connect a line, that is where the armhole will be curved around. So I'm also marking a quarter of the bust measurement plus sewing allowances, and I mark the same even at the waistline, a quarter of the waist measurement, that is waist measurement divided by 4, bust measurement divided by 4, and here I mark the hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for ease allowance and sewing allowance. So I won't be using a dart, but if you want, you can make your shirt with a dart, but also you can make a free shirt without a dart. You can even make it, oversized or just like that. So I connect the points and also soften out these points, with a curve like this, and that is it for now. So for the neckline, I'm working with 3 inches for the neck width and 1 inch for the back depth and 2.5 inches for the front depth. So I first marked 3 inches, but later I just changed it to 2.5, and it came out perfect. So from there I just carve out like this. So the neckline is curved for both front and back. So after here, I come back here at the armhole depth and I mark 1 inch off for the shoulder slant, connect it to the neckline like this with a straight line, and then add half an inch for the joining at the shoulder like that. So from here, from the 1 inch slant going down to the armhole depth, I have about 7.5 inches remaining, and I get the midpoint of the 7.5 inches, and at that midpoint I move in by half an inch, that is to mark the front armhole like this, because they are 2 separate armholes. Front is separate from the back one. So I connect the points as you see with the curve, and from this midpoint I just carve out the back armhole, and after I just cut out, starting with the back markings first, and later I'll just modify to correct the front pieces. So here I have to correct the front marking. So I just marked them onto the back just to show you how to, but they are supposed to be at the front like this. So 2.5 inches at the depth of the neckline and the 1/2 inch into the armhole for the front. So the front will be separated into two like this, since we will be using buttons. So now we have 2 front pieces and 1 back piece. This is how they look like. So now we can move on to cut the sleeve. So for the sleeve, guys, it is a long sleeved shirt, remember. So the full length of the sleeve is 22 inches. So we have to subtract 3 inches for the cuff, and whatever will remain with, we just add some allowances, the joining allowances, and this is what we are using now. So guys, for the width it is 8.5 inches, but remember this sleeve is on fold. So I take off the cap's height. I get the cap's height by dividing the bust measurement I'm working with by 12. That is a constant you can always use. So after the cap's height, I mark out the 8.5 inches for half of the armhole measurement, and the remaining will be the joining allowance. So I then connect a diagonal line like this, just as you see. And on this diagonal line, I mark its midpoint, and from this midpoint I go up by 1/2 inch, and that is going to help us mark the back armhole from the edge here to the middle, and also to the end will be for the front. So first we are marking the back armhole, as you see, from the edge to the 1/2 inch, and then to the end the other side. And then for the front, we carve out from the edge here onto where the midpoint is, then also another curve from that midpoint to where the width is of this armhole. So guys, for here we just need the wrist measurement. Remember it is on fold, so it is about 8 inches, and that on fold we get 4 inches plus 1 inch as the joining allowance. So I mark 5 and then connect to the half of the armhole measurement plus the allowances. So I first connect with a line like this, and after this line, I just curve it, like I use like about 1/2 inch to curve it in a little bit. It is not all that so straight, so I curve it in like this, and I cut out. So don't forget to leave your joining allowance at the top and even where the cuff will be. So this is it, and opening it up, remember we first cut out the back markings of the armhole. Now we can cut out the front marking on one side, just on one side. The sleeve will be shared between the front and the back sides. So that is it. I'll use this to cut another sleeve. And then for the cuff, guys, you can cut it now or later after all this sewing, but I cut mine before, so I have 5 inches in length. That is on fold, but still, even when it comes to the width, the cuff will be on fold. So the cuff, remember, is 3 inches, and since it will be on fold, my cuff will all together be 7 inches, and when on folded like this, it will be 3.5 inches. 1/2 an inch will be the joining allowance to the main sleeve, and it will be folded along the length like this, and then that will be joined onto the main sleeve like that. So guys, to start the sewing, I'm going to join the shoulders first, and then taking the button allowances so that I can cut out the collar pieces, so like that. So I'm just going to do this at the sewing machine. I'll just stop stitch going down after folding in by 1 inch. So this is what I have so far. And guys, something that I want to mention also is at the hemline you can either curve it or leave it straight. So I'm considering a curved hemline. So this is what I do. I'm aligning my front pieces together. I move in at the edge here, I move up by 1.5 inches and then connect back into the hemline like this. So I do this for the back also, and then I cut it out. So even this curve can also be modified. You can curve it any way you want. So after all that, now I have to take this measurement so that I cut out the collar. So my measurement was about 18 inches. So I have two pieces for the collar. There is a lower part and the top part. So for the lower part, it is folded into two, and it is like this, folded into two. We have to cut two pieces. So the width is 2.5 inches, but after sewing it will be 1.5 inches. The rest is the joining allowance. So I fold it into two like this, and also like this, fold again, so that I modify it. So I just want to connect to have a curved edge. So I'm marking 1.25 inches, even 1.5 is okay, and I curve it out like this. So this is the lower piece, the one that is like the bishop collar, and then I cut this curve out, and also I can separate these two pieces since we will have to join them together again. And before joining, always remember to add some stiff or some interfacing so that it stands out properly onto the shirt. So there are two pieces now, and for this upper part, the one that is always on at the top, it is also folded into two, and it is bigger than the other first one. So this one is 3 inches in width, and I'm folding it again just the way we folded the first one. And below here I'm going to take up again 1.25 inches or 1.5, then draw a diagonal line that is like this, and come also here in the middle. I go down by 1/2 inch and then connect to the side at the top. The 1/2 inch is only at the middle here, then I cut it out. This piece of the collar is always a little bit curved in the middle at the top there. So I cut it out and I separate the two pieces. I will also add some stiff, so they will be like this, and I will have to join them onto the wrong side and then flip them onto the right side, but the top piece will be sandwiched into the two pieces of the lower part. So guys, also we need a placket for this sleeve, and the placket is always at the back side of the sleeve. So I got the middle point of the sleeve and then marked 3 inches going up, but I have to cut it into two. So I mark about 2.5 inches. Remember, the full line is 3 inches, but I cut up to about 2.5 inches. I leave the 1/2 inch of that line on top there. So I have two pieces of the placket. They are 2 inches in width, and the length is about 4 inches, 5 inches there. It has to be, the length has to be beyond that marked line that we made. So I'm sewing 1/2 inch, right side of the placket piece onto the wrong side of the shirt, because it will be flipped onto the right side of the sleeve. So I'll sew each piece on either side of that cut line, and that stitch line will be 3 inches long, like the line that we marked at first. So this is it after. And now for this 1/2 inch that I left, I'm cutting diagonal lines across like this on either side, so that I can flip my placket pieces onto the right side of the sleeve like this. Remember, we sewed by 1/2 inch. Width of the placket pieces is 2 inches. This is what we have now. Now we are onto the right side of the sleeve. So guys, I'm just going to fold 1/2 inch again and then cover it up like this, cover it up onto the line that we made, and I will top stitch, and I will do that for either sides of the placket and for both sides of the sleeves. So now this is what we have after the sewing. So I choose which part is going to be on top, and the one that will be down, I reduce the length of the placket, and the one that will be top, I fold it very neatly to cover up the other one, and I make sure that my plackets are aligning. Then I'll top stitch on top. Sorry, some footage is missing there, but after everything, this is what we have. So for my cuff, I'll be sewing 1/2 inch on either sides and then flip it onto the right side, and then my shirt will be sandwiched in between the two parts of the cuff, and it will be finished like that. So guys, now for the remaining part, which is the collar. These are the pieces, 2 pieces each, and on each pieces of the collar, one is, I made sure that I added stiff, and now I just need to get the midpoint of each piece so that I align them together and join them. So I'm going to sandwich this already, the top part, into the 2 pieces of the lower part, the bishop collar, and then I'll sew along like that and end up with the finished part. Make sure they are aligning in the middle. So this is the finished collar. I have 1/2 inch as joining allowance, and I'm going to use that to join it onto the main shirt. So I do that and end up with the finished shirt like this. The collar is already done, and this is how the shirt is about. So I just have to add some buttons. There will be 3 inches apart from each other from the top, and this is how the cuff looks like. I'll also be adding snapping buttons onto these cuffs and even the main buttons. So that is how the shirt is looking like. It is a nice shirt. You can make yours also. I like what I see, and this is how the back looks like. So guys, I have a detailed tutorial about how to make a cuff, long sleeves, and that placket. You can check it out in my videos, and I think I'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe.